Bruce Cockburn is on a roll. The 77-year-old Canadian singer-songwriter has just released his 35th album. It's titled "O Sun, O Moon," and here he is to tell us all about it.
It started turning into something when I had enough songs to make an album.
Okay.
That's the pattern, and
Yep.
this was no exception. The reason that Bone on Bone, which was the last album of songs, and this one, is that I put out an instrumental album called Crowing Ignites, and that came out at, I think, the end of 2019, or the fall of 2019, just before everything shut down.
Right.
And so it didn't get as much attention as it might have otherwise, but it was also, that year, the shutdown year, 2020, corresponded to my 50th anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the release of my first album.
Gotcha.
And we had a touring plan for that year that would have included, me performing pieces from that record. So that didn't happen. People are catching up with it now.
Yep.
As we all are with everything that we didn't do that year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see you just kind of wrapped up your 50th anniversary tour earlier this year, right?
Yeah, at the end of February. Yeah.
And was it a good experience for you?
Yeah, it was. It would have been probably better had it happened when it was supposed to,
Right.
But considering everything else, it actually worked out very well. And the one exciting feature of the current circumstances was that getting out into and actually doing live shows whenever we started doing it, it was 2021, I think. In the fall, we got out and started doing shows, and a lot of the places we were playing, it seemed like nobody had been doing shows yet.
Yep.
And the vibe was fantastic. People.
Oh, good.
It probably didn't matter who was on stage. You got a room full of people, and they're all looking at each other, going, "Holy jeez, look at us all sitting here together."
Yeah.
People felt really good, and so did I.
Yeah. Well, as another Canadian singer-songwriter once said, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." So,
Right. That's right.
And you worked again with producer Colin Linden. So how did the two of you work together for this record? Is it any different than in the past, or do you just kind of roll on, so to speak, when you're on a roll?
Yeah, we've had Colin and I have had a really good working relationship for a long time now. I mean, for 25 years, and this one, we did this album a little bit differently. The instrumental album was just the two of us in a space, and I just played the pieces, and we did some overdubbing and stuff and played with it a bit. But most of the albums that we've done together involved putting a band together and then performing the songs as a band, right, and then adding or subtracting as needed. After that, this one we approached it a little differently. We did one other album like this, but basically recorded with just me and Gary Craig, who plays drums and percussion on the record. And he kind of acted as a human click track in a way, so that we could keep the time together and have a good rhythmic feel. And we got it down that way, and then we added people after the fact. So what that did for me was gave me the luxury of being able to sit back and enjoy all the great parts that people put on the songs.
Yep.
My part was over with. I didn't have to worry about it. I got it, and so it was really actually quite pleasurable to.
Cool. I see one of the songs that you had some help with is Colin Went Down to the Water. You had Allison Russell and Buddy Miller on there. The song itself, it feels kind of hymn-like, and I see you have some stained glass behind you. So maybe you can elaborate on the song and on working with Allison and Buddy.
Track of the moon on the ocean tonight. Colin went down to the water. Beckoning path, such a beautiful sight. Colin went down to the bound for the infinite, finally unbound, freed in the spirit, a way forward found into the current, no slowing down. Colin went down to the water.
The song it came out of an event that took place. It was one of several songs that I wrote over the course of a couple of Julys ago. Over the course of a month, we were in Maui for most of the month, and it was my family and a couple of friends, and we had rented a house, and just hanging out. We had a friend whose name happened to be Colin, who was living in Maui at the time. We knew him from San Francisco,
Right.
and he was trying. He had a hard time through the COVID shutdown. He had just sort of managed to break into the scuba business, which is what he wanted to get into. He was the guy in his 50s. He'd had a career as a tech person and wanted to do something different. He was a guitar player, sang kind of ragtime songs and stuff, and he wanted to get that going, and also his scuba diving, and turn that into some sort of lucrative, or hopefully, I guess,
Right, right.
a paying career. And he had just kind of broken the ice on that, and then the shutdown happened, and everything, everything went to pieces. So he was just starting to get that going again while we were there, and I had spoken to him on the phone. I'd made a plan to meet him in a few days to have a drink, and he drowned.
Oh boy!
In a scuba, and so there we were in this beautiful setting. We weren't right on the water, but we were close enough that you could see the ocean. You could probably kind of see the ocean from most places in Maui, but it was part of the landscape that I looked at every morning. I'd get up most of the time before everybody else and sit out on the porch and play guitar. I ended up writing a whole bunch of songs, but in this idyllic setting, looking out at the sea, and then all of a sudden, the sea included my dead friend.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of where the song came from.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then of course, Allison came in and sang on that, and on a couple other things, and Buddy likewise, and they were both great. I mean, my idea with that song, as you can kind of hear, is that it was intended to be a kind of call and response.
Right.
And so I wanted lots of voices on the response lines, and I think they did a great job. And
yeah,
I mean, everybody, both of those people and everybody else that contributed to the album were just wonderful to work with. Like, there wasn't a turkey in the bunch. It's like
no turkeys. That's good.
I mean, not that we expect one, but
yeah.
It really was nice to work with all those people.
Gotcha. And I see there's a co-write To Keep the World We Know with Susan, and I don't want to mess up her last name, so I'll let you try and pronounce it for me.
Susan Glukark.
Yes.
And Susan is an Inuit artist from Northern Canada. Yeah. And it was her idea actually to co-write a song. She's quite well known and has won awards and all that sort of stuff doing what she does. And she got the idea that we should try and write something together, and I thought it was a good idea. So, she was in Toronto, I was in San Francisco, but we kind of spoke on the phone, and then we emailed each other back and forth, and we came up with a song.
Algeria, Australia, Siberia's expanse, the countryside of Greece and Spain, the Amazon the same, from the tundra to the tropics, our world's gone up in flames. Hey, 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 hey.
She was able to put a vocal part on it too, so there's in addition to Susan, who's kind of, it's not quite a duet, but she sings with me in a lot of it. The Sarah Jaros is on that, also playing mandolin and
Oh, right.
singing. And yeah, it came out really well. I'm happy with the song and the way it got recorded.
Right. So I see we've lost another Canadian singer-songwriter, Gordon Lightfoot, and I was wondering if over the years you had any kind of contact with him, stories about him, thoughts about him.
Stories that, well, I didn't know him terribly well. I ran into him, numerous times over the years, and we were, we were friendly with each other, but not
right.
Like we didn't hang out.
Right.
But early on, I mean, he first of all, the first time I encountered him, I was still in high school, I think, or just barely out of high school, hanging out at a coffee house in Ottawa, where I was with a bunch of other sort of aspiring guitar player, folky people, and all of a sudden there was Gordon Lightfoot, came through and played, and we'd heard a buzz about him beforehand, but here was a guy from small town Ontario. You have to realize that in those days, this is late 60s, possibly 1970. I think it was before that, though. Canada had a kind of an inferiority complex, culturally, and we generally felt. I say we. I don't think I was as guilty of this as some people, but the prevailing attitude was that if you were any good, you had to come from the States or Britain.
Yep.
And if you were Canadian, you had to go to the States or Britain and establish yourself, and then come back, and then you'd be accepted.
Yeah.
Gordon didn't do that. Gordon stayed in Canada, and he appeared on the scene as this sort of, sprang fully armored from the head of the cultural gods, and had these beautiful songs and performed them beautifully, and he was really an example to everybody of what you could do. Yeah, of the fact that we didn't have to think the way we did, and I was heavily influenced by that fact, and also to some extent by his songwriting. So then, years later, a few years later, maybe some 70, 71, somewhere in there, I had a couple of records out, and George Hamilton IV, who I'm sure he's now deceased, I don't know, but he had hits when I was a teenager.
Yep.
And he was still around in sort of the country scene, and he recorded a bunch of Canadian songs, and including one of mine, and
cool.
He got me on the album. So I've been in the studio with George, and George was going to play that night at a club called the Horseshoe in Toronto, which was a country bar at the time. It became a rock. But so I went down to hear him play, and Gordon Lightfoot went down also to hear him play. And Gordon was so hugely famous, of course, by this time. So and I wasn't at all. But I'm sitting with another singer-songwriter, Murray McLaughlin. We were quite palsy at the time, and our respective wives, and we're kind of in the front row. And Gordon is prevailed upon to get up on stage and sing a song, but he had to play an electric guitar because that was just what was available. Right. And I'm thinking all judgmentally, because we made a big deal out of things like that in those days. If you're going to play rock and roll with electric guitars. Right. Don't play electric guitars. It's terrible. It's a horrible idea.
Yes. So Mr. Dillon ran into that problem.
Well, yeah. This was yeah. Right. So yeah, exactly. So this wasn't quite that kind of thing, but Gordon gets up, and I'm feeling a combination of like sorry for him that he has to play this Telecaster, right, and also very judgmental that he has to play this Telecaster, right, of course. And I know he saw the look on my face, because he looked, he's there at the mic, and I'm like 4 feet away from him, and he said, he kind of leaned over and he said, you're going to get stuck with this one of these days too, kid. You know, and it was great. I mean, he was not joking, really.
Right.
It was lighthearted, but it wasn't a joke. And you know, at the time it was sort of like, yeah, okay, whatever. But subsequently, of course, I both appreciated the fact that he even recognized who I was, and
Sure.
also the fact that you know, that he could see where this was going, and better than I could. So you know, that was the first time I think he actually said anything to me.
That's pretty cool. From the stage,
you know. But we'd run into each other at award shows, or you know, at other things. The last time I saw him was just a couple of years ago, and I played a festival called the Mariposa Folk Festival in Ontario, and he was there, and he came and said hi. He knocked on the door of the tour bus after my set, and we chatted for a while.
Right.
But so there's a big hole in the Canadian scene where.
So you've become quite the guitar player since that story began, and I see you have an instrumental on the album. And I was wondering how much guitar playing you did during lockdown when you weren't touring. Do you keep practicing at it, or are you kind of?
Oh yeah,
I've been there, done that.
No. If I don't play, it goes away.
Right.
I mean, especially at this age, I had a little leeway when I was younger. I could maybe go for a week and not notice it. But if I go for a couple of days now, my hands require, you know, many hours playing to come back to the flexibility that they're supposed to have.
Gotcha. And were there any guitar players that you looked up to kind of style yourself after?
Back in the day, there were many.
Yeah.
Chief among them, well, the Mississippi John Hurt,
right.
In terms of finger picking.
Yeah.
And a jazz player named Gabor Szabo, who he never got to be really well known, but although I think more people know about him now. But he played with the Chico Hamilton band and with Charles Lloyd and some other guys, and it was a fantastic band. They made 3 albums that were really terrific records, and I was hugely influenced by those also. But other players too, Ralph Towner, generally not so much the folk players,
right? Except
for the old country blues guys like Bill Brunsey and Vance Lipscomb and Mississippi John, and they mattered a lot to me. But so
yep. Very good. Now, the album ends with a tune called "When You Arrive," and that's kind of, you got everybody on that one.
yeah.
Allison and Sean Colvin and Buddy Miller and Sarah and all those folks, the McCrary sisters. How did that come together?
And the dead shall sing to the living and the semi-alive.
But I had the idea that I wanted to make it into a kind of sing-along. This is a slightly morbid song, of course.
Right.
But,
yes.
As are many.
At least the bells will ring.
But well, exactly. That's it. You know, and the dead will sing. I mean, it's not a downer, but
right.
But I wanted to get that. I wanted to make that aspect of it obvious.
Yeah.
And I thought it would make a good sing-along. So we kind of just got everybody that's on the record to sing on it. And extended the chorus at the end so that it could grow like that.
Right. Cool. Right. Did you happen to watch Willie Nelson's 90th birthday celebration concert thingy that was on a little while ago?
No, I didn't see that.
I just read about that they're making a film out of it, so I was wondering. And there was a lot of people involved, and various ages and whatever. So yeah. But,
yeah, I know. I was at Pete Seeger's 90th birthday thing.
Oh, that would have been something.
It was at Madison Square Garden in New York, and it was Pete, of course, and Bruce Springsteen and a host of others. was a cast of thousands in a way, but I got to be one of the thousands. That was a pretty great event. So
That's
I imagine
great.
the Willie Nelson thing would be good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it went on for like 3 days, I think. But, so where are you thinking about what you're going to do next after this is, now that O Sun, O Moon has been released?
well, I'm going to do a lot of touring.
Okay, good on you.
That starts at the beginning of next month, and it will continue with breaks through the rest of the year, and then we're starting to book stuff for next spring also. So I mean, I don't take any of it for granted at this point.
Yeah,
we're booking the gigs. If I'm still alive when we come around, I'll do them.
why not?
And
Exactly.
Hopefully that's how it will work.
Well, it'd be nice if you made it back down here sometime, but it seems like it's been a long time. It probably seems unlikely, but you never know.
I would really, really love to get down to New Zealand. It's the beauty of the place, and my daughter. I have two daughters. One is 46. The other one is 11. And the 11-year-old, big fan of Lord of the Rings, of course. And
right. Yes.
That for her, New Zealand is all about
the hobbits.
Yeah, well, she knows there aren't hobbits, but that landscape. It's very exciting for her. So hopefully, if I get to go, she'd also get to go.
Bring her along, absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you so much for taking all this time talking to me. I really appreciate the stories and the music, and good luck with everything.
Marty, thanks so much. I appreciate it, and nice talking with you.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.